Bookcase and Coffee presents Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance.
Hey everyone, welcome back to A Quick Shot of Romance. It is me, Becky, and joining me this time is podcast contributor Rachel. Welcome back to the podcast, Rachel.
Thanks for having me.
So you guys are going to catch on pretty quick. September's theme for our Quick Shots of Romance is small town romances. So all month long, we will be featuring different small town troped romances. So on this episode, we are headed to the small town of Fisherman's Landing, Maine. And funny story, I actually had to double check and make sure because at one point I thought they might be in Massachusetts.
Okay, I thought that too because Boston was mentioned, and I don't know why I just assumed that no other state is within like an hour of Boston.
Well, because they're talking about going to the airport in Boston. Like it's a couple hour drive, like 2 hours. And I'm like, really? So like I totally had to Google map it and see. So
that's so funny. I did the same thing.
Anyway, I'm glad I'm not alone there. So we are reviewing Maverick by Juliana Stone. This is book 3 in the Simon family series. Did you read any of the other books in this series, Rachel?
I didn't, which is a miracle because this is book 3 and you know how I like to read my series in order.
I do. This is a series I've actually read in full, and I've read the 2 spinoffs that come off of this series. So I'll be interested to see your take on if it can stand alone or not. Mm-hmm. So will you read us the synopsis from Goodreads?
Yeah. Maverick Simon lost his mojo somewhere between the last film he scored and a nasty breakup with one of Hollywood's elite. Burnt out, a vacation is just what this California boy needs. His brother's empty house in Maine offers the perfect sanctuary, but plans go awry when he meets a woman who rocks his world in more ways than one. She's not his usual type. She's edgy, opinionated, and downright rude. But something about the prickly Charlie Samuels sparks his interest. Maverick must decide if that something is exactly what he needs or if the smokin' hot chemistry they share is nothing more than a vacation fling. Charlie Samuels has always dreamed of leaving her small New England town for something bigger, but that dream disappeared the day her father died, leaving her to raise her younger brother and keep the family business afloat. Now a mechanic, she's knee-deep in grease and oil, and with a pile of bills to pay, has no time for someone like Maverick Simon, a guy who's just passing through. She can't deny the tall, brooding, sexy as sin Maverick causes her pulse to race, but she knows that he's way out of her league. So why is she contemplating an affair, especially when she knows that Maverick Simon could cost her more than she's willing to give, namely her heart?
So the release date on this is February 18th, 2015. And I will say overall, I think it holds up. It did not feel dated for being a 6-year-old book. Technology is only mentioned like Googling something and cell phones, but in very general sweeps. So I don't feel like it was aged or pigeonholed into a time.
No, I felt the same way. And you'll see like there's books that authors put out in 2015 that they like have updated since then because they were they didn't hold up. And this book did not need that at all, in my opinion. I wouldn't have guessed that I was shocked when I looked it up and it was 2015 because I used it for a bingo square.
Oh, perfect. So this is a vacation fling, grumpy sunshine. She is the grump. Damaged heroine. She's got all the baggage this time. Mistaken identity. Small town. Caring for younger siblings. So sort of single momish. Atypical female role. Charlie's a mechanic. And she's running the business. She knows what she's doing. And she's crazy smart. So this is not a typical female role for, no. That steam level. I actually gave this a 4, in my opinion, because I think the put out score was about 24% into the book. Mm-hmm. That we had on page action put out scores, a new put out percentage is something new that I'm adding to my bookcase and coffee book reviews because spice is relative. So you will know at what percentage there's on page sexual relations. So I think this book was kind of steamy actually. And there's a scene and we'll get to talk about. But let's first talk about Maverick. First of all, I think I told you he was a Hollywood star hiding out in Maine.
You did.
He's not.
He's not, no, but close.
Sort of. He's a songwriter and composer. His best friend is a country music star that is married to his cousin, who is a politician. I think a senator, maybe a governor. And their book was book 2 in the series, which is very good. Highly recommend them all. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Maverick is taking a break from his famous lifestyle. He had a bad breakup with a Hollywood starlet. She splashed their relationship all over Twitter, pictures of his butt.
Yep. Yeah, I was like, that's so obnoxious.
Yeah. And we should give a little background on Maverick and his family a little bit. He comes from a family that is described as being the Kennedys of Florida. So it's a huge political family with wealth that lives in the Florida Keys and is very influential. And the main family is his aunt and uncle, his dad's brother. Maverick's dad passed away when he was a young child in a car accident, and Maverick just has one brother. And his mom is looking for love. There's a really funny scene. There's a really funny scene where he's back at the family compound, and she has her current love interest, who is like 5 years older than Maverick. He's like, great. But so Maverick's very dedicated to his family, and it comes out in the story quite a bit, actually.
Yes, I agree.
So it kind of bugs me a little bit. They call and he goes. Like, he just instantly drops whatever is going on.
Everything.
It happens several times in the story. And I don't know. It bugs me. That bugs me.
The first time I understood ish. I didn't like how he didn't explain anything. I think that's kind of like what bugged me, is it was like everything else was an afterthought.
Well, right, because he had been intimate with her at that point, and he drops everything and leaves without really a true explanation. And at this point,
right,
she does not know fully who he is. She's not into pop culture. She doesn't pay attention. He's staying at his brother's house, but his brother kind of is a recluse and doesn't socialize within town. So nobody has put together that he's part of this famous family. And he just picks up and leaves. And I really struggled with that in the story. And I know that this is a vacation fling, so it's only been a very short amount of time. So he doesn't have to explain everything he does. But there's a big moment towards the middle of the book, like 60% in, where he leaves her a second time because his best friend is pregnant and there's having some issues in labor, and he's running to be by her side. And again, he leaves with no explanation. Like, a phone call would take 5 minutes. Town's not that big. You couldn't stop for 5 minutes and say, listen, I have to go, but I'll be back. Like, he's not very clear about his intentions.
No, I completely agree with that. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Well, and because he's not just leaving Charlie, her little brother, and we'll talk about this next, but her little brother has bonded to him. So there's a real connection between Maverick and her brother Connor. And it bugs me because I don't feel like he was overly sensitive to the trauma that child had already experienced. So let's talk about Charlie a little bit. She's tough. She
is. I loved her.
Yeah. I mean, and she had to be tough, though, because her life has not been easy.
Nope.
Her little brother is about 10, I think they said, 9 or 10. And shortly after he turned 3, her mother left. her and her father and her little brother, and just left the family. They've never heard from her again. She is just gone. And her dad has died. You do not know, and I'm not going to spoil it. You do not know how he's died or anything. He's just not in the picture. But you do know that her little brother, Connor, has been greatly affected by his passing, to the point that he isn't talking. Yes. He's not connecting with people. He just is zoned out in his own little world. And at this time, when her father has died, she was a senior at MIT. She wanted to be an engineer, which
that blew my mind.
Right. So she left her college and returned home to take over her father's car repair business and be a mechanic and raise her little brother. And she's been doing it for about 2 years at this point, I think is what they said. So Charlie, she has a lot of spunk about her. So one of the first interactions between her and Maverick, they meet in a bar on a Friday night and they dance, and her best friend kind of ropes her into coming to a dance, and Maverick's going to be her date. Like, it's a small town community center kind of dance, and Maverick's going to be her date. And she gets all dolled up. And then what?
Stands her up.
He doesn't show.
Leaves a voicemail.
Yeah. And so she goes to the dance anyway, but then she finds out from another small town person that he had pizza delivered out to the house not even 25 minutes ago. And now she's pissed.
Yeah, I would be so mad too if someone says they have something to do and what they're doing is ordering pizza.
Right? So she gets in her truck, drives out to the house, bangs on the door, and is like, what the hell, dude? What the literal hell? So I, and then of course it ends up being, they end up having sex right then and there.
Right. 24%.
24%. It was amazing. I do want to say, I did like Maverick's character. I find him to be a genuine, likable guy. He does come off as a bit of an ass, but he's dedicated to his family and friends. And you see just how dedicated he is. And he immerses himself into small town life, even though he's like the Hollywood guy who's kind of in hiding, which is different for small town Hollywood romances. Typically, they try to shield themselves and don't go into town. And
yeah, I agree with that. And I think part of it's helpful because he's not like an outward facing star. Like, if people hear his name, they might be like, oh, like, you're a Simon. But I think he lucked out in the fact that, like, while he's famous in Hollywood, he's not necessarily like immediately recognizable.
Right. And there's only one little moment. They do this snowmobile run where one of the people from the neighboring town is like, do I know you? I feel like I should know you. And she's a busybody lady, and Charlie has all sorts of things to say about her. But so I think that was like the only moment that it was like aren't you someone kind of thing?
Yeah.
Which I liked. I felt like that was just kind of unique in a small town famous person romance like that. My heart did break a lot for Charlie. You totally get the feel of everyone leaves.
Yes. Like, she's just waiting for everyone to leave. And that's been her life.
Yeah.
So
everybody
it's not
just leaves
even
her.
Like it's a realistic fear for her.
Yeah. And it just brings a little bit of emotion. There was some time at the end, towards the end of the book, where like emotions got a little thick in my throat kind of feel.
Yeah.
Because you're just kind of like, you just want to hug her and be like, you have value. You're everything. Don't worry. And also he's coming back, I promise.
Right. Oh man, I felt so bad for her.
So I did like, so sometimes when it's a single parent or raising a sibling, it can be hit or miss a little bit. I felt like Connor really added to this story quite a bit.
Yeah, I thought so too, especially in the aspect of like they're a package deal. So it was definitely very much like a single parent romance in that aspect because, you know, she had full custody of him and he's still very young. And the fact that he wouldn't open up to anyone also made it hard. And, you know, like he would be a deal breaker for some people.
Yeah. The level of sacrifice that Charlie's willing to make for him, I also think speaks really strongly to the type of person she is.
Yes.
And also a bit of Maverick too, because he makes the time. He takes that moment to create a bond with Connor. And there's really a cute scene where he walks into the kitchen holding his hands. They're both in their pajamas. And you just know that at that moment, Charlie's heart just melts. Like all the grump just fades away.
Right.
So there is a super spicy bathtub scene. I had forgotten about that. And I was like, ooh, this book does bring the sexy.
Yeah, no, that was, you know, I read that not too long ago today. It was
that was good.
Super steamy.
So if you like if you like a large encompassing family styled romance within your small towns, this one totally brings it. The Simon family is almost a character onto their own in this book.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like Fisherman's Landing has all the aspects of small town romance that we expect to see. You've got the nosy neighbors. Everybody knows everybody's business. The famous clam chowder from the diner. The DJ at one of the dances that only plays like Elvis Presley. It has to have been made before 1960 or he doesn't know it. It was so funny. So yeah, I think that this is definitely quirky of small town romance. It fits right in with, you know, what you want from a small town romance. I think so.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Okay, so let's get into our questions here. So Rachel, did you like the book?
Yeah, I really liked it. And I was a little nervous going in just because I did see that it was published in 2015. And we mentioned earlier, like those can really be hit or miss. Like you can really tell like, oh, that was definitely like 6 years ago. Lots changed, but it was not like that at all. Like I really liked it. And I'm definitely going to read the other books in the series.
Yeah. I do like this. There is some heartache in it that brings some emotion to the surface. But it definitely has what you want in contemporary romance, small town romance. Like,
yep.
And I like Juliana Stone. I just really like her books. I think she makes really strong emotional characters, and she reminds me a lot of Lexi Ryan as far as, and we'll get and we can talk about that now. So who would typically like this book?
Kind of like we mentioned, anyone who likes like big families and small town romance, like really involved side characters. Like there's a lot more characters that you get to know than just the main characters, which I personally really like. And then if you like single parent romance, I think you would like this too.
Yeah, it's definitely a family series. Now, within this series, they do go back to Fisherman's Landing. It's not like a one-stop. While the whole series does not take place in Fisherman's Landing, there are other books that do take place within Fisherman's Landing. So the small town romance is there for this book, and it's there for some of the others in the series. But if you do like Lexi Ryan, like The Boys of Jackson Harbor, if you like Claire Kingsley's The Miles Family, this is very typical of those stories with big characters you're going to remember.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me almost of Bella Andres.
Oh, yeah.
The Sullivans.
100% agree with that.
It kind of reminded me of that too, because there's like the not so famous siblings and then the like super famous siblings, that kind of thing. it kind of gave me that vibe too, which I really like those books.
I do like those too. I haven't read them in a minute. Might be time to do a revisit there. So would you recommend this book?
I would definitely recommend this book.
I recommend this series often, but I haven't read in a while, so I was happy to do the reread and know that the stories stand up. You know, I've done that recently a couple of times for our quick shots where we've read a book that I read when it first came out, and then I haven't read it since, and now you're doing a reread of it, and there's always that trepidation of, is this going to be as good as I remember it? And here I am recommending it to one of my colleagues. So you have to tread lightly sometimes, especially as like things within our current modern age are changing so often, technology, terms, you know, vocabulary and stuff like that. So
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, this one definitely, I felt like this one definitely stands up and I would recommend it.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about it because there wasn't that issue in this book.
There wasn't. There really wasn't. Okay, so thank you very much, Rachel, for joining us for this quick shot of romance. We appreciate having you join us. Happy reading, everyone.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.